Welcome to the All-Star Math Video Tutor. This is Mrs. Dorless, and the topic of this lesson is simplifying fractions. We're going to take a look at some simple divisibility rules to explain this. One of the first rules we'll look at is any number that is even, which means it would end in a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, is divisible by 2. Another rule we're going to look at is the divisibility rule for 3. If the sum of the digits is divisible by 3, then that number is also divisible by 3. Let's take a look at the number 15. If we add the digits 1 plus 5, that equals 6. 3 does go into 6 2 times, and we know that 3 will go into 15 5 times. So we can see that divisibility rule, how it applies and how it works. Another divisibility rule is the one that is divisible by 5. Any number that ends with a 5 or a 0 is divisible by 5. And the last divisibility rule we will look at is the one for 10. Any number that ends with a 0, 10 can go into that number. Let's take a look at a couple of fractions and how we would simplify them as much as we can based on these divisibility rules. Let's take 10/15. Now, because they both end in a 0 or a 5, based on our rules, we know that we can divide it by 5. Now, we know that 5 over 5 equals 1. So dividing a fraction by 1 won't hurt it. It won't do anything to it other than simplify it some more. So let's continue this. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So now we've totally simplified this fraction, or fully reduced it down to 2/3. Let's take a look at another fraction here, 18 over 135. Now, they're both not even. They don't end in 5 and 0 or a 0. So let's check the 3 rule. 1 plus 8 is 9. 1 plus 3 plus 5 is also 9, and 3 goes into both of those numbers. So let's divide it by 3 over 3. When we go to simplify that, 18 divided by 3 is 6. And 135 divided by 3 is 45. Again, we know that 3 can go into 6. 4 plus 5 is 9, and 3 can go into that. So let's try it again. Let's do it by 3 one more time. We come to find out that 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 45 divided by 3 is 15. So now it's fully reduced from 18 135ths to 2/15. Now, that seems like a lot of work, and it is, so that's why we have something called the greatest common factor. And what that is that's the largest number that goes into both numbers. If we can find that, it will make less work for us in the long run. So let's take a look at one by divisibility rules, and then we'll take a look at it a different way. By divisibility rules, since these are both even, we would divide top and bottom by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Again, they're even one more time. We would divide it by 2 over 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So now 4/12 has been fully reduced to 1/3 based on divisibility rules. Well, now let's take a look in using this greatest common factor. Okay, greatest common factor says if I take a look at 4 and 12, and what's the largest number that goes into both? Well, that would be 4. So let's divide by 4 over 4, and again, that is equal to 1, so it's not going to harm our fraction. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 12 divided by 4 is 3. And you can see we came up with the same answer, but we didn't have to do as much work. And that's what the greatest common factor allows us to do. Now, let's take a look at this from an algebra point of view and how we could apply this. Let's expand this out, this numerator. This would be 3 times a times b times b, all over the denominator, which is 12, which will change to 3 times 4 times a times b times c. Now, like we said earlier, any number over itself equals 1. So we want to find this. We have b over b, it equals 1. A over a equals 1, and we have 3 over 3 equaling 1. So let's take a look and see with what we're left with. Well, all we have left in the numerator then is a b, because it's b times 1 times 1 times 1, which is b. And then in the denominator, we have 4 times c left. And that would be the simplification of this particular fraction. That is the end of this All-Star Math video lesson.